Culture is something that unites people. No matter in what part of the world you want to do business with, it is always beneficial to learn about the culture and how business is done. Understanding cultural differences will help you to build strong, seamless relationships. Culture exists where people are. What do you think? Join me on a world etiquette tour.
Hello, my name is Laura Acano. I'm the founder of Polished Manners, an etiquette and social skills training company based in England. Some of you may not be aware that actually England is based in the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom is made up of 4 countries. The 4 countries are England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, and these 4 countries make up the United Kingdom. One of the best things that I love about England is the presence of our royal family, because they bring with them a lot of tradition and British culture dating back to hundreds of years, and it's such a fascinating topic. When people come to England, they want to know about the Queen and members of the royal family, and it's always an interesting topic to talk about the royal family, to talk about the culture, to talk about the many traditions that come with having members of the royal family in the United Kingdom.
I was born in the most beautiful country, Ecuador. Ecuador is famous for being home to the Galapagos Island. But there is so much more of the nation ubicated on the middle of the world. It is the point of Earth closest to the Sun. Hello, I am Pamela Monteverde, Ecuadorian corporate communicator, consultant in personal and professional image, specialist in digital marketing, public relations, etiquette, and protocol.
I am very proud, number one, to be an American and having the ability to have freedom of rights, and also to be amongst a diverse population of individuals or citizens.
Hello and namaste to all my Indian friends. Hello from my lounge room to yours. I want to say hello. I hope you're all doing well over there during these difficult times as we are here in Melbourne. Like you, we're in lockdown too. But today I wanted to share with you some little tips and tricks about Australian etiquette that you may not be aware of. Lucky for me, I have some fantastic Indian friends here in Melbourne that moved here about 5 years ago. So I've heard lots of stories and lots of things for them, little difficult things for them to overcome with our culture. But lucky for them, I've held their hand and shown them the way, and they are now fully immersed in the Australian culture.
I would say that one special thing about America is the American dream. And the person I want to highlight is Sarah Blakely from the company Spanx. She's the founder, and how it all came about was one day she was going to a party and she was frustrated because she couldn't find the perfect undergarment for her white pants, which I'm wearing today to honor Sarah. She decided that the pantyhose she liked, but she didn't like the feet in them, so she took her scissors and cut off the foot, and that began the company of Spanx. Because it was such a great idea, she figured if she liked it, other people would like it, other women would enjoy it. And she's so right, because I wear a lot of her undergarments. I think they're fabulous. But the greatest thing is that not only do I love them, but her company now is $1 billion. So she started with $5,000 for her company, and now it's $1 billion. So I would call that a very successful story of the American dream with a very fun person.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say you about the etiquette from Argentina. I'm MABEL de MICHELE and will speak about the etiquette from my country. We have the same rules in etiquette that the most of Western country. Of course, in protocol areas, in official events, we have different legislations. For example, in diplomatic area, we try to have a good relationship with every country, and of course have a good communications. In etiquette, informal etiquette is different because we usually have some meetings with friends and with family that have different rules. For example, asado. Asado is a barbecue which we share with family and friends, and it's the way that we have to welcome to the foreigners people, or just the goal is share the moment.
Hey everyone, my name is Anastasia and I'm British School of Etiquette United Kingdom, CC Elizabeth St. Petersburg, and IAB Chicago Certified Etiquette Coach, and today I would like to tell you more about culture and etiquette of my home country, Russia. Russia is the biggest country in the world, stretching through Europe and Asia and covering 11 time zones. This remarkable country is rich in art, architecture, literature, traditions and culture. But today, I would like to start with Russian people. Russians are very private and reserved people to those outside of their inner circle. Opposite to vast majority of Western cultures, typically Russians don't care for chit-chat or small talks, but rather prefer to get straight to the point.
From my perspective, it serves a very important purpose in maintaining harmony. On flip side though, it is very hard to understanding what Chinese people are thinking. My friend often say, it is very hard to understand what Chinese are thinking. You almost want to dig out their mind to try to guess. On one hand, they want to create peace by not voicing their opinion. On the other hand, they want to hide their wisdoms by keep the understanding to themselves. All in all, it is always a good way to keep their egos in check.
Hello, my name is France Deher from l'Atelier du Savoir-Vivre in France, and I'm living in Versailles, the royal city close to Paris. Je dois dire que, en concernant notre savoir-vivre, on est assez fiers de notre repas français, le repas gastronomique français qui a été justement reconnu par l'UNESCO en 2010 comme patrimoine immatériel et culturel de l'humanité. Et pourquoi ça a été reconnu par l'UNESCO? Car en France, on aime partager un repas, qu'on soit autour de la table. Le repas gastronomique français est une cuisine très fine et très diversifiée, qui est cuisinée avec des très bons produits de terroir. Ce qu'on aime dans le repas français également, et c'est évidemment nos bonnes manières à table, c'est tous les arts de la table, où il y a un artisanat très riche et très diversifié, très raffiné. C'est la bonne association que l'on fait entre nos produits du terroir et nos vins. Nous sommes producteurs. Et ce que j'aime dans ce que je fais, c'est justement de transmettre toutes ces bonnes choses, toutes ces bonnes habitudes, toutes nos traditions que nous avons autour de la table. Voilà, j'espère que cela vous convient et I will be pleased to reply to another question if you need some other information. Thank you, have a good day. Bye.
Hi, I'm Mary from Brazil. So in Brazil, when we are introduced, we normally kiss each other on the cheeks. However, Brazil is a very big country and we have a diversity of culture in plenty of states. For example, in Rio, we kiss it on the both cheeks, whereas São Paulo is just one kiss in one cheek. So the most of other states is three kisses, so we need to observe before to kiss.
Hello everyone. My name is SAMANTHA MATLHAGELA. I come from Botswana. Botswana is a country in the southern parts of Africa. I am based in Gaborone, the capital city of Botswana. Botswana is famous for its diamonds. It is also famous for the Okavango Delta, which receives thousands of tourists every year who come to witness the real African sunsets and wildlife in its natural habitat. Of course, 2020 is an exception because of the travel bans and restrictions brought about by COVID-19.
Hungary is located in Central Europe and is part of the European Union. We have quite a long and heavy history behind us, and the state is more than 1,000 years old. Our language, the Hungarian, only spoken in Hungary, is quite unique, and they say that this is the second most difficult language to learn in the world after Mandarin Chinese. And it's because it's extensive and complicated grammar and pronunciation. It's hard to master and it takes a long time.
So Switzerland is famous for scenery, cheese, chocolate, watches, many things. But it's actually more than that. It's a really diverse country with 4 different cultures and 4 different languages: German, French, Italian and Romansh. So that there are many different regional customs, courtesies and regional foods. Some of them are, however, national and they're observed throughout the country. So the first one I'm going to talk about now is greetings. Greetings are extremely important in Switzerland. It's customary to greet everyone, everywhere, including children. You greet hello in the language of the region. They're exchanged when you enter into a store, when you leave a store, entering an elevator, leaving an elevator, at the bus stop. Walking along the street on a hiking trail, you also expected to greet the person that you cross paths with. When passing an older person in the street, for example, the greeting would be a little bit more formal as a sign of respect, and you would say hello sir, hello madam, or what I would say in French is bonjour madame, bonjour monsieur. At a social event, you're actually expected to introduce yourself to all the other guests by saying your name, offering a handshake, although at the moment we're not obviously doing that. Most people are placing their hands on their chest and just briefly nodding their head. But the interesting thing is it's also customary to do this with children. You introduce yourself and say hello to any children that are present. The third point I'm going to share with you is about punctuality, which is something that is very important in Switzerland. Lateness is considered rude and punctuality is considered a sign of respect. If you're invited to someone's home for dinner at 7 p.m, then the time is 7 p.m. where you arrive. A few minutes grace can be tolerated, but if you're arriving a few minutes late, it's really not appreciated. You really the respect of the person. If you arrive early to someone's home, it's considered just as rude as lateness, with the exception of a business appointment. If you have a business appointment, then you're expected to arrive early, maybe 10 minutes early, 15 minutes perhaps, as this shows that you're competent and that you're respectful.
My name is Maria Campos and I'm from Portugal. Portugal is the oldest country in the world with the same borders since its foundation. It was founded in the 12th century by King Dom Francois Henriques, and since then its borders have remained the same. Portuguese is the official language of 10 countries. An unexpected habit for foreigners is the kiss twice greeting when meeting someone. Unless it is a very formal occasion or in a formal business environment, when you are introduced to someone in Portugal, you are expected to greet a person with 2 kisses, one on each cheek, cheek to cheek. This between ladies and between a lady and a gentleman. Men will always greet each other with handshake or a hug. Family and close friends may kiss only one cheek, but most commonly it's used to kiss twice. To avoid this may not be easy though, as showing the intention to shake hands instead may be seen by the other person as a sign of arrogance.
I also want to share some of the interesting etiquette rules that we have in the United Kingdom, And one of the key elements of etiquette in the United Kingdom is being on time, being punctual. Within the British culture, it is so important to turn up for appointments and events on time. If you are late, it is actually considered rude. So if you are running late, it's often better to call in advance and let the person or the people you're going to meet know that you're going to be late. But it is essential to always try to be on time. Punctuality is very, very important within the British culture. Another interesting etiquette rule that we have within the United Kingdom is also when you're invited for a meal, when someone asks you to come around to their house for lunch or dinner, whatever it is, it's essential to turn up with a gift for the host or the hostess. Whatever choice of gifts you decide to bring is entirely up to you, but usually chocolate is quite okay to take. Or you might even want to ask if you could bring a dish to contribute to the menu plan. One of the key etiquette rules that a lot of adults actually perhaps are not aware of or tend to overlook is actually that when you're invited to someone's house for a meal or dinner, which, whatever phrase you might want to use, it is very important to note that when they say 7 o'clock on the invitation, or whether it's by phone, however, whatever method they've used to invite you, do not turn up exactly at that time. So for example, if they say 7 o'clock, actually don't turn up till about 10 past, quarter past at the latest, not more than that, but 10 minutes late will be ideal. And the reason for that is to actually enable the host or the hostess or combined to have a little bit more time to put the last or finishing touches to their preparations for welcoming their guests. So for a nation that love to be punctual, that love to be on time, that is one of the exceptions to the rules, when you can be slightly late and it will be acceptable. There would be no problem with that.
When you're invited to somebody's home or a dinner party or drinks or something like this, something social, if your invite says from say 2 until 5 o'clock, that means you should arrive close to 2 and you should stay till as close to 5 as possible. It doesn't mean you can arrive at any time at 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's a set time to come to their home for a barbecue or lunch, so you should generally come for that entire time. So that was something they were unsure of because they thought they could just turn up anytime. So that's a little different. When you arrive at somebody's home here in Australia, it would be considered polite and very kind of you to turn up with a gift, like a hostess gift. So I normally turn up with, personally, maybe like a scented candle or a little bunch of flowers, or maybe even a scented soap or something nice for their bathroom. Something that's really, really appreciated by a lot of people is I have a beautiful garden and lots of vegetables growing in my backyard. So I might make up a little basket of some beautiful herbs and some vegetables and some flowers and take that basket, and that is very well received because obviously it's grown with love and it's from my heart. So things like that, that maybe something that you had made. A friend of mine makes muesli, so she might make up batches of muesli and take it in some beautiful jars with some ribbons around it, and she might take that as a hostess gift. So something from the heart and something that is a gift for them that's not necessarily for that evening. For instance, if you were invited to somebody's house for a barbecue, they would probably put on the meat and the salads, but they might say to you to bring a cake or a dessert, or they might say to you to bring a salad. So you might take a plate for everybody to share, as well as maybe a bottle of wine or something nice to drink. So lately I've been trying to be a little bit healthy, so we've been taking kombucha and beautiful flavored mineral waters to the barbecues and parties and things. So not recently because of COVID, a bit before that, but you know what I mean. So things like that, if you were to be invited somewhere, it is nice to turn up and to take a hostess gift and maybe to contribute something towards the meal as well. So if you got to somebody's home, most people would just say sit wherever you like at the dining room table. It wouldn't be as formal as they might be in some countries where you might have your place settings with your names around each place settings at the table. This would be considered a more formal dinner, and something would happen not very often. So maybe once or twice a year I might get invited to something like this, but the rest of the time it is normally we would go to somebody's home, we would all sit, we would share wine, we would share drinks and stories. The meal would get passed around. We might be passing platters around. You would take some food and then pass it on to your left, or even hold the platter so that your person next to you could help themselves with the tongs while you're holding it, and then you would pass it around the table like that. Then generally the host would make a toast of some description, or would say to you, please start, while the food is still warm. So it's very casual, but it still has a sense of polish and respect to it, if you know what I mean. It isn't just everybody hoeing into food whenever they want. Everybody would sit down and eat together and enjoy each other's company. And they would generally do this at the same time. So that's why you would arrive and leave at the set designated times that you had been invited to.
Also, if you are a guest in Poland, it's well regarded to bring a small gift or flowers for the hostess. Usually, the gifts are opened straight away. Also, be mindful that Polish people can communicate quite frankly. So, if there is any negative or difficult subject, just approach it simply with tact and sensitivity.
Conversations on delicate topics like religion, family, or politics should be reserved for a third or fourth meeting, or avoided altogether unless Russian peasant brings it up fast. Family unit is one of the most important aspects of Russian culture. All family members should be treated with utmost respect. With it being a very patriarchal society, usually fathers or husbands get the final say.
And we have some rules. For example, if you are a host, you have to bring some sweet cake for the mate because it lasts several hours. Or maybe you have to bring a bottle of wine, Malbec, this is the typical wine from here, from Argentina. Or maybe you have to bring some flowers. You have to be on prompt also. You have to be very punctual, on time, because the barbecue, the asad, is don't wait you. So could be gone if you be late.
As a nation, Russians are excellent hosts. If you have a guest in Russian home, it is customary to bring flowers to a lady of the house and also a bottle of spirit-based beverage to a man of the house.
Tipping is unique to America. As we have traveled abroad, I realize that tipping is unique to America. It's something that is really expected, and it gives generosity to the people serving us. There's two areas I want to speak about right now, is the area of restaurants and the hospitality industry. In restaurants, when you're going to a restaurant, it's wonderful to tip the waiters and waitresses that are serving you. You can tip anywhere between 15 to 20%, and if you have really good service or exceptional service, go for 25 or 30. You can thank them. They can make or break your service. The food obviously is important too, but the serving is important. So the generosity of giving a good tip is wonderful. So you always just include that when you're thinking about going out for dinner. You include how much you'll be spending because you'll be tipping. And a way to tip is to make sure that you don't tip on the tax. You can just tip on the food and drinks. And if you're going to one of the restaurants that maybe serve you at a counter, or then you take from the counter like a McDonald's, you don't need to serve there, but sometimes there's a cup for putting a little jar to put tips in, maybe like at a Starbucks. And if you're a regular there, or you asked to have a special drink made all the time that takes a little more time, it's always nice to drop $1 or $2 into that cup. And even if you want to put more in, that's absolutely wonderful. Well,
you would make sure that you tip the valet person that takes care of your car. When you drop off your car, you don't have to tip then, but when you come to retrieve it, you always want to make sure you have a tip ready for them. And I would say anywhere between $5 and $10 is a nice tip. And you can always thank them, especially if you can remember the name of the person that you took the car from you. And if they're the ones that are bringing the car back to you, it's always nice to call them by name.
Most important thing about Chinese etiquette is called 中庸, which means midstream living. You are staying in the middle ground when you interact with people to reach a harmony. This is a concept that is embraced in both Confucius and Taoist teachings. You will find the majority of Chinese people will actively try to avoid tensions or conflict during their personal dealings. Part of this is about not revealing their true feelings or positions and seeking a peaceful coexistence. When the tension is present, they will choose either walk away from this conflict, or they will choose to try to agree with other people's idea, even though they have different views about this subject. As an example, when you passing a gift to someone, even though the gift might be very expensive, but you may often say, "Oh, I have a little something for you." And the receiver will often reject 3 times until they finally receive the gift. Another example can be when you meet a very young, beautiful Chinese lady, you will compliment her about how pretty she is. And the response will always be, "Oh, no, I'm not that pretty." So this is type of personal devaluation about themselves. It's part of the humility. And this humility forms a very important part of 中庸.
We are very particular about individual conduct. The way you conduct yourself is seen as a product of your upbringing. So young people are expected to bow or kneel as a form of greeting to elderly people or people of higher authority. In Nigeria, proverbs, metaphors, and analogies are a part of our communication process. So you're expected to read between the lines and draw up meanings from what is being said. Hierarchy, seniority, age, and respect is the order of the day. It's expected that you address people appropriately according to their titles or their preferred titles. In Nigeria, hosting a guest is a big deal. So we ensure that anyone that walks through our doors into our homes to visit is very comfortable, eats well, and enjoys their stay. And it's expected that you see your guests far beyond the door. Seeing them just at the door is seen as impolite, but seeing them way beyond the door is seen as a form of respect and regard, and the excitement that you were happy that they came into your doors in the first place.
The first one, we born the old man. No, we do not born another person. In Ecuador, we have the custom that to say goodbye to the year that is about to end. We born in the street a sad dust of newspaper puppet called the old year. This puppet can be from a simple anonymous sawdust doll, the president of the country, or a fashion cartoon. Families and neighbors come together on the night of December 21 to burn their old year together and welcome to the new year. The second one, we have the Ecuadorian time. If the party is at 10 o'clock at night, you invite to the person or the people at 8, but they will arrive at 11 o'clock. It may sound exaggerated, but in Ecuador it is known by everyone that if you meet a person for an hour, most likely not be punctual. It is known as the Ecuadorian time, in which you are late for all kinds of events. There are no rules, nor is any type of meeting respected. Parties, marriage, baptisms, burial of anyone. Of course, there are exceptions for fast some work meetings. That's in a specific people.
Given so many inventions to the word, Just to state a few, the ballpoint pen, the first functional helicopter, hologram, the Rubik's Cube, C vitamin, and I could state many more that we are very proud of. Also, not to mention that we count 13 Nobel Prize winners. It's quite fascinating. In 1848, when the Hungarian Revolution against the Habsburgs was defeated and 13 Hungarian generals were executed, the Austrians were clinking glasses filled with beer after each and every execution. So back then the Hungarians vowed that they would never clink glasses filled with beer for 150 years. I know that this has already passed, but we kept this custom. So if you happen to be in Hungary or around Hungarians, just try to avoid clinking glasses filled with beer.
The second thing I'm going to share with you is about dining, one of my favourite topics. The Swiss style of dining is continental European. This is very similar to the continental style of dining that many people know, but the main difference is that the edge of the fork is used to cut all the soft food, usually in the person's right hand if they're right-handed, and the knife is used really only for cutting hard foods. It's considered very insulting if you were to cut something soft like potatoes with your knife. Your wrists, just as in continental style dining, would remain visible on the table throughout the meal. Another little interesting point about dining is toasting etiquette. Your glass is raised to each person at the table, as opposed to all the glasses being raised and clinked together. So this is the custom in some places where everybody raises their glass to the centre of the table, but in Switzerland, no, you acknowledge each person at the table by raising your glass to them and by having eye contact with that person. If you were eating in a restaurant, you're not expected in Switzerland. However, it's often rounded up a little bit, and if you decide to leave a tip, then it will be gracefully accepted.
The Portuguese like to entertain and gather with family and friends. We do not need much time in advance to arrange a dinner or lunch party. Among close friends and family, a couple of hours is enough to gather a group of people at home, usually around a table with good food and Portuguese wine. In a social environment, outside the close circle of friends and family, etiquette rules like scheduling and a previous invitation are always regarded. Dining etiquette in Portugal follows the Western etiquette. It differs from other European etiquettes in a little detail, which is the fact that you do not put food on the back of the fork, even because it would not be possible to do with some food like maybe rice or other typical Portuguese food. Something that foreigners find odd is that the Portuguese cuisine includes fish dishes in which the fish is presented whole on the plate and not in fillets, and you carve the fish yourself. This may be daunting for someone that is not used to do it. Of course, in a formal occasion, you would never be presented with such a challenge. In Portugal, if someone gives you a present, you are expected to open it immediately. It shows your interest and respect for the time the other person spent on buying a gift to you.
Also, the English love order. So for a lot of people, when they visit England, they do find it quite interesting that for everything we always seem to queue up. So when you get somewhere, whether it's a post office or a bank, wherever you go, it's so important that you look and see where is the queue and you join the queue right at the end of the queue. Jumping queues is very much frowned upon. People don't like that, and you will be pulled up if you did try to do that or just trying to cut in front of people. So jumping queues is another thing that people don't like. We like to queue up, whether it's at the bus stop, whether it's at the airport, wherever you are. It's very essential that you learn to queue up. So that's another factor of British etiquette, that, you know, queuing is actually quite a big deal. And some of the other things that I find that are typically British in terms of what the culture or etiquette is also that social aspect of always offering people a cup of tea. If someone's upset, something's happened, you'll most likely find, oh, would you like a cup of tea? And we know that a cup of tea doesn't solve all the problems of the world, doesn't solve all the issues, but people generally love to see that as a drink that can bring some comfort, some relief to people. So often you would be offered a cup of tea. And as we all know, afternoon tea is a very, very quintessential British culture that we have here. So if you do visit England, it's always worth visiting one of the hotels or the cafes to have afternoon tea. That is a very big part of the British culture. And finally, another aspect of the British culture that is really, really interesting, that I absolutely love, is the way that people are polite. The English are very, very polite. Well, unless you actually upset someone, and then of course you might get a reaction that is probably not very pleasant. But when you go to places, please, thank you, may I, you're welcome. People love people with good manners. Generally, that is a very essential part of the English culture. Saying please if you upset someone or you accidentally nudge into someone, or I'm very sorry. That just polite manners is really, really an important part of the British culture, and it's something that visitors also, I believe, they do find fascinating. I was recently asked about from a Chinese lady who said, why do the British always say I'm sorry so much? People, you know, even if they haven't done anything, they're always saying I'm sorry. And I just said, it's often, perhaps that's not the right word to use. Maybe depending on the situation, you might want to say excuse me or something like that. But I said it's just really part of the politeness, part of the British culture, that people are generally very polite. And so because of that, that word I'm sorry tends to be used a lot, maybe not always in the right context. So I hope you've gained a little insight into some of the British culture and some of the etiquette that surrounds the British culture. Thank you for listening, and thank you very much, British School of Etiquette India, for asking me to participate in this video. Thank you very much.
The office, it's also becoming a little bit more, with office culture, it's becoming a little more casual. Started out many years ago as Casual Friday. I'm not sure if you have that in India, but on Fridays you could maybe wear jeans and a collared t-shirt or a shirt. You don't necessarily have to be in a suit and a tie and cufflinks. You can just be more casually dressed. And often that was because on Fridays people might have lunches with clients, or they might be going out for drinks afterwards, which would be a team building exercise or something to build rapport with clients or colleagues. So that often happened on a Friday at the end of the week.
So let's start with clarifying the misconception that Poland is a small country. Actually, as a territory, it's bigger than Italy or UK. Also, Poland has beautiful and very diverse nature. It's got seashores, mountains, one of the last and largest remaining parts of the immense primeval forest that once stretched across Europe. Also, it has only Central European desert, dunes, and an amazing lake district.
Now, greetings, same as in any culture, are very important. Emphasis is always on the senior person, and handshakes are very firm and dominant with a strong eye contact. When speaking or meeting someone who isn't your friend, it's very important to address people formally using Mr., Mrs., Miss, Madam, or Sir. For native Russians, we use our father's name as a form of a middle name when introducing ourselves. So for example, my dad's name is Christoph, so if I was to introduce myself to a Russian peasant in the formal way, I would say my name is Anastasia Kristofovna. I really hope you enjoyed this quick guide to Russian etiquette and culture, and from the very bottom of my heart, thank you for watching.
The people of my country are called Botswana. Botswana holds their culture, tradition, and heritage in high regard. One of the long-standing national habits in my country is the greetings. I'd also like to refer to this as the unexpected etiquette. Having traveled around the world, I've observed that other cultures or other countries per se do not hold greetings in high regards like we do in my country. Here in Botswana, one is expected to greet everybody everywhere they go. You are expected to greet the person you find in the elevator, the person you meet at the grocery store, the person you sit next to in the bus or train wherever you are going. It doesn't matter if you know them or if you don't know them. You just greet them. Greetings are viewed as a way of respect to others. Greetings are also a quick way to build a rapport with other people, because if you have greeted people, it makes it easier for you and them to start a conversation. You tend to get better help and useful answers to the questions that you ask from the people that you have greeted.
A very rich cultural heritage. And despite the diversity in our cultures and our traditions, we still find a way of coming together in unity as a people to make our country better. Another interesting thing about Nigeria is that no matter what it is we may be going through as a people, we still find a way to make our lives exciting.
Mate is a drink that we use to share moments with friends and family as well, and it's an infusion that we drink with a high bulb called bombilla, which is of metal. The rules is that you have to share and serve in a round. When another rules could be when you don't want to drink anymore, you have to say thank you, and the people that serve you understand that you don't want to drink anymore. Mate is a drink that we share with every person in the meeting, but right now with the COVID, we don't use in that way. We use individually. That is important.
Do not have the caste system here in Australia, so everybody is equal, and that applies to young people and old people, and we treat everybody with respect and everybody with kindness. So if they are a waitress or a waiter in a restaurant or a cafe, or a tram driver or a taxi driver, or a pilot or a doctor, we would treat everybody with the same respect.
Although the United States of America, we have freedom of speech and rights for all citizens, it can sometimes be a double-edged sword if not implemented properly. For example, we are in the midst of a heated or intense political season. And right now, even in my own personal life, I've experienced and I've seen where just because you have freedom of speech, you have some people who do not know how to properly hold a conversation as it relates to politics. And they don't know the sensitivity around the subjects, and they sometimes blurt out or say things that can be harmful or disrespectful to others of gender, of race, of social economic status, and just as a human being. So right now, although it is great to have such freedom as freedom of speech, it is an extreme, intense time for us right now in the United States, even as it boils down to something as entertaining as social media should be. I personally think that there should be some measures in place. Although you have freedom of right to express how you want, I think we need to go back to the basics of manners and proper manner, and even teaching manners on the job or etiquette in the workplace as a professional development in terms of do's and don'ts, what you should talk about. And even if you have two colleagues who may get into a debacle over even mild views, to be able to sit down and have proper mediation with them, or to implement certain rules in employee handbooks as it relates to what you can and cannot talk about as it relates to politics, gender, or human rights. So right now, currently, it is very sensitive, and I'm sure it's probably echoed across the world, that right now we really need to implement better behavior, better responses, starting from our children on up to adulthood as it relates to having human rights and being able to say what you want to say. I'm hoping this insight was very helpful to you. And again, I thank you for having me.
Ecuador is a country with a lot of cultural diversity, climate, flora, fauna. It is simple, wonderful. I love telling you about my country and its customs.
In terms of etiquette, we can say that Poland is still a bit more traditional than many other European countries. People usually relate to each other by Mr. or Mrs. Also, people rarely smile at strangers in public. This is a layer of public formality that is generally broken once people are introduced. Therefore, try not to be intimidated by the Polish apparent serious attitude. If you are heading to Poland for Easter, prepare to get wet. Easter Monday is known as Śmigus Dingus, when everyone is chasing one another with water guns and buckets full of water. In addition to birthday, Polish people celebrate their name day, which is the day commemorating the saint they are named after. The names associated with each day are listed in all calendars in Poland. So we can say name day is often more important than birthday because nobody should forget about it.
So how we carry ourselves, how we treat others, how we come across as individuals or professionals are crucial for how we are perceived by our circle of friends, by our colleagues, for building trust, or for influencing others. I'd like to thank the amazing coach and colleague Niraalee Shah from British School of India for this wonderful opportunity.
It is a very beautiful place. In terms of Chinese domestic tourism, a lot of people go there for holiday. One of the most interesting things about China is cultural diversity. We have 56 ethnicities across the country. Each group have its own distinct language and its own culture. In my hometown, there are 25 different cultures that live in harmony. The best thing about this is the range of the cuisine we get to experience, which is varied and especially delicious.
In my country, we greet with a simple Dumela Ra or Dumela Ma, meaning good day sir and good day ma'am. And if it's a group of people, you say Dumelang. Having said that, I hope that the next time you get an opportunity to visit my country, you will remember to say Dumela Ma, Dumela Ra. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I look forward to learning more about other world etiquette. Thank you until we meet again. Bye.
do I feel about these unexpected etiquette or national habits? I'm excited about them because one, it lays a foundation for other etiquettes, general etiquette principles or guidelines to be taught. So even if we as etiquette coaches in Nigeria have to teach the subject of etiquette, it's going to be a bit easier because we already have a foundation of respect, regard, consideration for other people. So having to teach etiquette in Nigeria will be a little bit will be quite easy because we already have a foundation of respect and regard for each other. So those are the few unexpected etiquette that apply in Nigeria and how I feel about these etiquettes or national habits. Thank you so much.
In Hungary, we greet formally. We say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We also use the casual hello, but we say see ya. But when it comes to greetings, try to avoid using the question of how are you. This in Hungary is not part of the greetings. It's not something that comes with the sentence, but it's rather a personal action when you want to learn more about the other person's family, health, or work-related issues. And if you ask the question of how are you, then you should be prepared to have at least a 10 minutes conversation about how the other person feels at that moment, what's happening in his or her life. So we really share how we are if somebody asks this question. I know that in some cultures and countries this is so natural because it's part of the greetings, but in Hungary, if you really want to know how the other person feels, then you should ask, how are they?
There are many fun things, many interesting things about living in Switzerland, and I thought I would just share one fun fact with you because I found it so interesting when I first moved here. If you decide to adopt or buy a dog, you're legally obliged to take a dog awareness course. You have to sit an exam before you're allowed to purchase the pet, before you're allowed to take it home, and then after you do purchase the pet, you have to attend a mandatory practical training course with your dog. This is so that you can teach your new pet to behave in the appropriate Swiss manner.